my God, you found us. Anyways, since you're here, welcome to another exciting episode of DottrinePod, the platform where we collaborate with key stakeholders in the industry to drive meaningful conversations around creatives. My name is Omolola Mo. Welcome to the culture of creatives. Our guest on the show today is someone who has found his calling at the intersection of design, music, and tech. He's worked with global brands such as Empire, Microsoft, and Bolt. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as I make welcome the co-founder of WeTalkSound, Dunsin Bankole.
Hi.
Today we'll be discussing the topic, good name is finer than old wine. And I particularly like this conversation already because it's something that is general, it's something that is out there. You know how there's this saying that goes, good name is better than gold and silver. Is that how they say it? And I like the Yoruba interpretation that says, Oruko rere, Osanju wura ati fadaka lo. Don't worry, we're going to put the interpretation up there for our non-Yoruba speaking viewers. But yeah, what we're discussing today is basically around how a brand name can, make or mar a campaign, what to think about when you want to, come up with a brand name. Should you think like the consumer or should you think like the creative? And we have several case studies like that of FirstBank, like Google, like Pick Milk, where Pick as picked this whole brand naming thing from the aspirational angle, such that every message they put out is something aspirational. Or should we even talk about Google, that has now even become a verb? It has become something that people think of like an action word. Oh, I want to Google this thing, I want to Google that thing. So generally, that's what today's conversation is about: brand name and how important it is for a brand, their product or services. So Dunsin, I know you are somebody who is also into marketing and all of that. So one of my first questions is, has there been any project that you've worked on that, when you came up with that campaign name or even the brand name, you were just sold and you're like, no, I'm sold. This is very nice. Can you remember any brand like that?
Yeah, definitely. So I work on WeTalkSound. WeTalkSound is a 360 entertainment company, and last year we had this idea to create a brand for house music. So house music is like electronic music. It's doing its thing currently in Nigeria. I don't know if you've heard of like raves. Yeah. There's a rave scene that is like blowing up. So house music is a huge factor behind that. So we wanted to play in the house music space, and we needed an umbrella name for the kind of music that wanted to house that. So right now there was a challenge because there's already house music. We wanted to come at it from a different standpoint. How would our own version of house music be different? So we decided to come from a melodic standpoint because we're good at that, like at making melody. Okay. So we decided to create house music that is like melodious, like that has feeling of the sunset.
Okay.
So that was actually the vision behind it. So there was a struggle. How do we encapsulate that feeling in a name? And we had a brainstorm. And at the end of the day, we came up with a simple one, Cafe Rhythm. So that was the name behind that. So the idea behind it is an event during the day followed by house music. Mm-hmm. So that's the idea behind Cafe Rhythm. And I think the name perfectly encapsulated the idea we wanted. Mm-hmm. And once you see the website, you see the branding, you see the aesthetic, it kind of flows off that. It has that brown sunset feeling that pays homage to sunset and cafe. Mm-hmm. And rhythm, which is like the beats behind house music and the melodies. So that would be an example of a campaign that the name, I had to come up with a name with the rest of the team. And that was interesting. That was one of my favorite brand names. In fact, I couldn't believe it wasn't taken.
Oh, really? It wasn't?
Yeah, it wasn't taken. Like, I was just bought the domain ASAP, but took the social media. Yeah,
okay,
like, nice. Like, what is someone else? Nice. What does someone else get to the next day? Names are like a gift from God. Mm-hmm. So if you don't do, like, I like to say this thing, like, perception is reality. So your name kind of gives you a perception before someone even feels your brand. So it's like a window into your brand, really. So once you have a great name idea, just lock it.
Exactly.
Book it on Instagram, buy a domain, because
that's like the first thing that people would see. You said something about aesthetics. As a creative person, we like to always build things, ensure they are perfect before it goes out there and all of that. But when it comes to naming a brand, which one would you go for first? Is it the aesthetics or the functionality of the name?
That's a great question. I think for brand names, I would lean towards a combination of both. But I would say for me, functionality would most of the time win, because people need to. Your name is like a window into your brand, so it needs to serve the purpose, and then aesthetics can help. So if your name kind of does both, you've hit the sweet spot. But not a lot of names do that, and I think in 2026, now more than ever, it's very hard to find a name that maybe sells what you're doing, but it's not taken.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people have to be very creative, and that's where aesthetics comes in. So even if you're like, for me now, the best brand names try to give you a window into the product or service, like in one in 1 second or a few syllables, you understand the brand perfectly. But I think even if you can't do that now, as long as it creates a perception in your mind that it's adjacent to your brand, I think you've hit the sweet spot. So personally, I would prefer a name that sort of like leans towards the functionality and the aesthetic just helps it. Something like that, yeah.
Let's talk about this from the POV of consumers also, because you know that the market in which a brand is playing is also very important, and you have to think of, you know, the people will be the end users of that particular product or service, right? Nigeria as a case study, right? What do you recommend for brands when it comes to, you know, naming their brands or their products, the way you see Nigerians and how we pick things? Because I know I've seen a few conversations on Twitter where people will be like, you did this thing, you named it Ashake something, and you want to sell it for 250,000 naira. Is it because of the name? Is it because of the branding and all of that? So using Nigeria as our context now, as a founder, what should a founder pick? Should it be the aesthetics again, or should it be the functionality of a name, using Nigeria audience as a case study?
I would say it would depend on your story. Like, what are you trying to tell? What story are you trying to tell with your brand? You know, a couple of people come up to me, they're like, oh, I have this idea, but I'm struggling to come up with a name. Yeah. You know, I have like friends who reach out, oh, how about this name? What do you think about this name? What do you think about this name? And sometimes someone could spend 6 months thinking about a name, and it's not launched the business. So what I try to tell people is, you know what? Take a step back. Think about the story behind your business, behind your products, behind your service. What are you actually trying to do? You know, what impact are you trying to make in people's lives? What message are you trying to sell? Obsess about that. Once you figure that out, then draw out the name from that. So it becomes sort of easier to figure that out. And guess what? Even if you don't get the perfect name, you can rebrand. It's perfectly fine. Like after a year, you know, when you actually start the business, once you start connecting with people, you might get inspiration from an interaction with a customer, and that might motivate you to find the name that would serve. So I tell people, don't obsess over the name, and it gets to a point where you can't actually start because
you can't stand
you're
up
spending
to whatever you name
you're
yourself,
spending 6 months thinking about a name, and like you're not making any progress. How about you just figure out the story, and then from there it will be very easy to come up with the name. And even if the name doesn't hit the mark first time, you can rebrand. So I would say that would be what I would tell people to focus on the story, focus on the message you're trying to, you know, tell. Like, how do you want people to feel after I use your product? Like, what mark do you want to actually leave on people? You know, because there's a lot of competition. You're not the same. You're not the only person in your space. You have other people, but how do you want to do it different? Then once you figure that out, pick out your name from there. All right, cool. Do you also think that there are some brands that, you know, because of their name, they are already at a disservice because people can't even connect already, and because of that, they're not even interested in whatever value, whatever products, whatever, you know, they're not even interested in what they are about anymore because, you know, the name from the get-go doesn't just appeal. Do you think there are brands like that in Nigeria? Yeah, there definitely would be. I mean, branding, naming is a very self-selecting. I think. Especially when you're trying to convince someone, like, oh, I heard of this product, I think you should try it. What's their name? Okay. You know? And you go, and the person's like, what's happening? So yeah, I think there are definitely a lot of brands that could do better with their naming. I don't want to mention any. Okay. But maybe a famous example that we all know would be BARD. I don't know if you know this product. BARD. Google. That was the name of their product, Gemini, before. Yes, I do. That changed it. Yeah. So when it came out with BARD, everyone was like, that sounds like a very generic. Like when it sounds like a person, like a template person. Yeah. Like, how will you use that for a product that's supposed to actually help
Serve
people?
everybody.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the instant reaction to the whole world to that name wasn't great. And thank God they saw the feedback.
Yeah,
And they came up with Gemini, which is a better name. I think another example of a name that I would say doesn't really serve, but I think like they just become so popular that it doesn't really matter anymore. I think ChatGPT. I don't think that's
Do I agree with you?
I don't think that's a
Why?
great name. Like, it just doesn't, like, it doesn't really have a strong feeling. Like ChatGPT. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just, and like, but I think because they're just so big, like, people just get along with it. But I don't think it's a great name for what it's trying to do, personally.
Yeah. You know, this thing that you said, because they are so big, they can get away. I think it's something about big brands where you've already established a name for yourself. So whatever subsidiary product and all of that, you can just do anything and anything with it. And people just do it because you already have like an umbrella company that people just subscribe to. But I disagree with you on ChatGPT, Sha. I mean, chat. Then the GPT. We'll find out.
What is GPT?
I promise you, there would definitely be something.
Yeah, but
it would have a meaning.
Yeah, but like, I think it's like graphic something. But
so I was curious about Nano Banana. You know Nano Banana, yeah? I was so curious, and then I went ahead to check how they even came up with the name and all of that. Do you know that the story behind Nano Banana is they were supposed to submit the project, and they were already reaching the deadline. So because they were reaching the deadline and the pressure was already on them, they were like, "What's the name of this file? And the person in charge just said, Nano Banana, Nano Banana, Nano Banana," and that's how they just took it. And that was Nano Banana.
Works.
And I think they said, is it Banana or something? Is the nickname of the person in charge of that project. So she just added Nano to it, and she was like, "You know what, Nano Banana." And here we are with Nano Banana.
I like
so
Nano Banana,
you like Nano Banana, but you don't like ChatGPT.
Yeah, because
why?
Because like I said, like perception.
Perception.
Like Nano Banana creates a warm perception in your mind. Like, it's cute. It's like, like, and like it works because like it's a graphic. It helps you like create graphics, so it works for that. It's like playful, but like ChatGPT just doesn't really strike a lot of chords in me personally.
It strikes a lot of chord in me. Okay, so now we've talked about brands that could have done better with their names. Let's talk about the brands that are out there and they've done so well with the name, not just with the name, with, the communication that, they put out there as a result of their names and all of that. I was talking about Google the other time, how now there's nothing anybody wants to tell you. If somebody's surfing the internet to check for something and all of that, the next thing they will tell you is, "I'm trying to Google this thing." And some people say, "I'm Googling this thing." Like, it's just
become a verb.
I mean, everybody has taken it up and all of that. So let's talk about some brands that you think that they've done, really well with their identity in terms of the name and all the communications that they put out as a result of that name. Does any brand come to mind right now?
Yeah, definitely. So like I said, I think branding is perception. And names are like very important in branding. And I think a lot of people think that once, like, the name is enough. Yeah. Like, the name is just the first step, everything else the brand does kind of adds value to the name. It's like you have a destined name, but you don't do anything great with it. But once you now do something great, people are like, "Damn, you're born for greatness." But you know what I'm trying to say. So brands that I really like their name, I would say one name that I really like is Snapchat.
Yeah.
Because it just encapsulates the idea.
Yeah.
Snapchat, I also really like Twitter. I don't like that they changed it to X. I like the idea of Twitter, like the bird, like tweeting, like, and it just became a whole thing. Yeah. And to just take all of that away for X, that's something that I will never forgive.
All right.
But how about you? What brands do you like? Or what brand names do you like?
Google, Google, because of what I explained earlier on. And then there's also FirstBank. You know how they are the first bank in Nigeria, and now they've owned that very we are up there kind of space. When it comes to their communication too, they say things like "you first," that's to their customers and all of that. So I really like the idea behind that. And to think that FirstBank is a brand that has been existing since forever, you would think that they are not supposed to tap into that kind of a knowledge, but they are doing so well with the name, and I really like it. Then there's also Peak Milk, the whole aspirational, Nigerians, again, that's what I was saying about the environment a brand is playing in. Also, I think it's also very important when you're naming your brand, because when it comes to Nigerians, we are hustlers, we are aspirational. So any brand that tries to put us on that level of you can do this, you can be this, you can be that,
we form strong bonds with them.
Really vibe with them. You've spoken about X. I was going to move to that with my next question, which is how what's your take on how changing a name can change the trajectory of a brand, whether for good or for bad? I know you mentioned X, and I would like to pick it from there. I totally agree with you. Even though I like X, X because
too.
It's just
it just
X.
Sounds cool, right?
It sounds cool, but the whole functionality behind Twitter, how even we as people on that platform, we have a name for ourselves, tweets or something, and we say I'm tweeting something, I'm retweeting. As a matter of fact, now that the platform is X, we've not found other names for the features for the
people
community.
Still call it Twitter.
People still call it Twitter. We've not found a name for the community and all of that. So even though I like the word X because it's short, straight to the point, just X, I really like the whole functionality around Twitter. And that's the thing we're talking about when it comes to aesthetics and functionality. I think X fits that. It's nice, it's cool, and all of that. But Twitter is where the work is really. Twitter is where the acceptance is. Or maybe the people at X, they are still brainstorming on how they would build other things for X. Let's just give them time, right? Let's just give them. I like Elon Musk, so for obvious reasons, but let's just give them time. So, are there any other brands that when you think of them, you just feel like, oh, the name of this brand killed them from the get-go, or the name of this brand, we've spoken about the ones that, their names really helped them. So let's talk about the ones that when you think of it, just like, was supposed to change the name, that's why this and this. And I know we have a lot of them in the music industry. Can you think of any?
Off the top of my head, I think X would be the strongest one. I think that's because, like you said, there were a lot of words that are associated with a brand. And the funny thing is, most of the time, it's not even the owners of the product that do that. It's often the users.
Community,
Exactly, the community you build behind it. So once your name is rooted strongly in community, like for you to just uproot that, most of the time, it doesn't go well.
Then when it comes to the music industry too, I can think of 2 or 3 people that they had to change their names for some reasons, but I think they are really doing well with it. And the first is Kiss Daniel. I know there was this time where he was having issues with his record label and he needed to change his name, but
he changed to Kiss.
I was telling my team member that whoever advised him to change that SS to double Z, that person did something great in Kiss. Because imagine he changed his name to another thing. What can you possibly... Is it Peck Daniel or what? Like, what can you possibly change it to? So I think that was a very smooth move. And then right now I'm also thinking of Buju, where he had to change to Benson. To think that Benson fits his personality a lot. And the thing you said about it could even be the users that will now come up with something. Now we call Buju Benson. Like some people don't care for the Benson, some people don't care for just pack it together, Buju Benson. And it fits him a lot. Speaking of names too, I can think of like some albums that their names are just, out of this world, because I like Buju so much. The Captain album, I love it. Like the expression of that album, the name, how he has also embodied it was something that was, very, very cool. There's also Olamide with his very unique naming of an album. So I just think that
like
those
YBNL,
his record label, his record label, I think is very cool.
I think that's a very iconic.
There's this other person I'm trying to think of, I Fashion by Raman Jago. I really
HF.
I really like it. I know. I really like it. I don't know, maybe from the get-go it was supposed to be the whole I Fashion by Raman Jago. I don't know, but I like the phrase together. It makes sense. It makes it feel complete.
The icon.
You get me? H and F. So those are like very cool examples of brands that have done so well with their brand names.
I think another example would be in the music space. I think a name that I really hold dear is WeTalkSound, because because when you
please tell me about
when you hear the name, it just like gives a perception. It's like we, like the community, are talking about sound, and it's funny because that's how the brand started. Started from a WhatsApp group of people just chatting, and then it has evolved into a music community and a whole lot more. I think another name I really love is GTCo, because apparently it's an abstract word. I think those are one of my favorite brand names. Like when it's an abstract word and you give meaning to it, like Google. Apparently it's a word they just took from somewhere. But now it's become a verb. So a word like GTCo as well, like it doesn't really mean anything before. But because of how the brand has given meaning to that name, now there's a strong impression in your mind when you see GTCo? You know, you think culture, you think gist, you think like
usefulness.
like scandals, like stories that you read and you be like, what is this really happening?
Yeah.
So I think that would be another example of a brand name that is really good.
Yeah.
I would say another name that I really like is a fashion brand. They're called Meiji.
Oh, I know them.
You know.
I know vibe. I know ball.
Meiji, like
I know
it's such a simple but like iconic name. And like when you look at their designs, you know, like I said, like you can have a great name, but it's what you do with it that actually matter.
That matters.
Yeah, like if you translate your name across your story, across your imagery, across your merch, across everything, then it begins to take on life. But if you have a great name and you don't do anything with it, it's like people just know you have a great name, but okay.
Like my head is about to blow now with all the brand names that I'm thinking of, because you mentioned GTCo. Another, let me say, community or blogger that I really, really like, his name is Tunde Ednot, right? And when I realized that the Ednot is the backward spelling of Tunde, I'm like, yo, bro, what were you thinking of? And to think that people just accepted it like that, we didn't even know the meaning. We just like, oh, Tunde Ednot. And then there's also Taoma. I watched one interview where she was saying Taoma is a combination of all our acronyms, like the first letter of all our names, and then she just came up with the Taoma. So it just really sounds nice, because when you look at Taoma, what else can she bear other than Taoma? Like the name just suits her so well. Then another fashion brand that I recently discovered is Bonfo. All these brands that we are mentioning, you guys would have to pay for ads. Like you pay for ads. I'm very serious. I don't know if you know Bonfo.
Yeah, no, I know Bonfo.
Yeah, and I'm like, girl, like how did you guys even come up with this name? So I mean, like, and I feel like when it comes to naming, Nigerians are so good at it because we are creative people. So even when you see somebody and you think that this name, what's it all about? Trust me, when you speak with that person, you'll be so surprised at the rationale, at the depth of, you know, thinking that built the name for them. Yeah.
Just to add to that, right? And that's why I would say in 2026, even though it's harder to come up with names, I think there's an opportunity there now. Because all these names you mentioned, it's kind of like they're kind of rooted in culture.
Yeah.
So I think that might be a part for you to think of, like, how about you root your brand in culture, and then when people try and find out the meaning, it makes like they connect to it. You know, like, oh, they get why. And people like when something, like when they can connect to the meaning of something. Like, oh, it makes sense. And when they now like your product,
I'm telling you, I really think that this conversation is even really important for, you know, startups, upcoming brands, and all of that, because just like what you said, big brands can afford to name anything, they can afford to do anything, but as a small brand, as a founder, you need to be very creative. You need to decide if you want to think like a creative or like a consumer when it comes to naming your brand. I know, like I said, a lot of brands are running through my mind right now. Real. You know, when Facebook decided that, they want to start calling themselves Meta and all of that. And at first, people were like, what do you mean Meta? That's the thing about big brands. See, anytime I'm talking about Meta, it's just Meta now. But that might not have been the story if it were to be like a smaller brand and all of that. We also know, because you're also in the music space, we know about so many musicians that, you know, they've just lost their touch simply because they changed their name.
Yeah.
So this thing that we call name is so important. It's so important. Okay, guys, this is the perfect cocktail session, and I'll be asking Dunsin a few questions, which I would also be answering. So let's see what his answers would be and what my answers would be. So when it comes to naming a brand, Dunsin, what should be the core idea behind the name? Should it be a name that is coined? Should it be a name that is aspirational? Should it be something that pushes clarity first? Which one?
Yeah, I would say it depends, like I said, on the story you're trying to tell. I think if you're a tech brand and you're trying to, you know, you have this revolutionary idea, the way you pick a name would be different from if you're a fashion brand trying to sell to young people. So I think on the fashion brand that's trying to sell to young people, you can lean towards a more playful and name that's rooted in culture or like a specific story. Or if you're a tech brand, if you're trying to be general access, you need to think about the acceptability of your name, be more general. So I would say, but just to be safe, I would say the clarity of your name.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. In fact, I don't have anything to add to it. Yes, I agree with everything you've said. That it depends on the brand, but if I have to pick, I would say clarity first. Let people see, let people hear about your brand, and you know they can connect it to whatever it is that you're all about. So the next one is, what element would you say makes a brand name distinct? Is it the wordplay? Is it the visual identity or memorability?
I would say the memorability. We see a lot of brands every day. On average, like the average person sees about 100 logos every day. So like, why would yours stand out? You know, your brand should be memorable. I should be able to tell someone about your brand, and it should make a mark on them.
Yeah.
Your name should be like a preacher for your brand. Like you should evangelize your brand. So if you can't remember it, if people can't remember it, you're already losing like some potential steam. So I would say personally memorability, like something just being iconic.
Yeah.
And you being able to remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would lean towards that personally.
Yeah. Again, while I agree with you, I really do think that elements like the wordplay, the visual identity are things that would come together to help the memorability of the brand. So when it comes to picking an element that makes a brand name distinct, I can't honestly pick one. I feel like a lot of things have to come together,
exactly.
you know, because there's no way your brand name is memorable to me if I can't connect with the visual. There's no way your brand name would make sense to me or would be memorable to me if the wordplay is not on point, especially if I'm a creative person. So I'd say that all of these elements that I have listed, they actually need to come together to make your brand name
memorable.
distinct,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
memorable. Yeah. So the next question is what would you say gives a brand name that long-term appeal? Is it the timelessness? Is it the verb potential? Is it the narrative elasticity?
I would say it's maybe a mix of all, but I think timelessness would be the strongest one. Because if you name your brand after a fad or like a trend, you notice that when that trend passes, you have to maybe change your brand name again.
Yeah.
You know, like now that like there's this AI wave, like if you name your brand something AI, for example, when the AI wave is gone, like you're gonna be left behind. So I think timelessness, you know, can your name stand the test of time? In 100 years, would your name still have the same impact or even a larger impact on people's lives? I think that was what I would lean to personally.
This thing that you just said also brings me to the conversation about ideas, right? If you connect the idea about your brand if you connect your idea to something like trends and all of that, I mean, it's very shaky, right? I watched a show and this man, very, very genius, very intelligent man. So he came up with a product, but the thing about that product is that it could not, like, there was no purpose to it aside COVID era. You get, it was during that COVID era, and he was trying to pitch to investors. And even though the product was nice, you know, hand washing machine that you would not need to touch and all of that, it functions on its own. There was no prospect to it outside COVID, and that was what made him, you know, lose that pitch. So this thing that you said about you not connecting your brand name or even your identity to like a trend, I mean, I totally agree with it because it's very, very risky. Even though at that particular point in time you might be getting all the rave from people, they might like you, but once that particular trend, you know, goes off board, everybody's just going to forget about you. So I really agree with you on that. For me, what gives a brand name that long-term appeal, I also think is the timelessness, really. I mean, we can think of so many brands right now that, you know, they've been existing even before some of us were born and they are still existing right now. FirstBank would never leave my head because that brand is just up there. I also remember growing up where we had Baba Blue. I know the initial brand name was Vicks, but, you know, just like what you said about how users can even be the ones to now come up with something nice. Or even Buju, we as users, we came up with something nice for him. So there are so many brands that they've been existing for over 50 years and they are still doing well. People can hear their brand name right now and they can connect with it. So absolutely, the timelessness. Thank you so much. So Dunsin, if you had to rename a brand today, what brand would it be and why would you want to rename that brand?
Yeah, that's a good question. Personally, I don't really be going about trying to rename brands. Exactly. Like I believe that behind every brand there's a story.
Absolutely.
But it becomes a problem if I can't connect to that story easily. So there was this day a friend of mine sent me a picture of a billboard. I'm like, have you opened a bank? So there's this brand called Bank Vole or Bank Vol. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
And I sent it, and the person sent it to me, and I saw the picture, and it was a nice logo. It was a nice I like their color, the branding. I went to their social media, but I just did not really connect to the name. Like, what does it actually mean? Like, is it supposed to be Bank Volley or Bank Vol or Bank? Maybe the L is even silent and it's Bank Vol. I just did not really understand it. And I went to their website, I went to their social media, and I still did not get a sense of what it actually meant. So that would be an example of a brand name that I would change. I would change their name. And like I said, ChatGPT. I think I would change that name personally.
Name could have been better.
I mean, right now, if I had like a magic wand, that would be a very huge a project for me because it's a very transformative software, like helping lives of millions of people around the world. So I think it deserves to have a better name personally than ChatGPT, which I feel like I don't really strongly connect with personally. So those are the two brand names that if I had a magic wand today, I'll totally change.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank God you don't have a magic wand. Okay, so for me, I'm going to just talk about brand names that are coined from personal names. You know, when you say Damlak, Bim, Shim, and all of that. Let me tell you guys a story. So I went to 2 primary schools, but till tomorrow, if anybody ever asks me, oh, which primary school did you go to? I'm always going to mention the second one. And the reason is because I really, really like the second one. So for the first one, when I started growing up and then I realized the reason or the idea behind the name, I realized that it was the name of the first and second daughter of my proprietor at the time or headmaster. And I'm like, excuse you? Also the name, I don't want to mention the name, but let me just say. So the name of the first daughter was Bisola, and the second Bola. So the name was and I'm like, whoa, I don't get it. So people will ask me, which primary school did you attend? And I say, yeah.
What's the second one? What's the name of the second one?
Oh, the second one is State Primary School.
Okay.
And I really liked it. It was so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, baseball, blah, blah. I don't want to mention the name. So, I mean, I said all of that to say that brand names that are formed from, that are coined from name of the founder or name of, 2 people coming together, in as much as I understand that, yeah, we're in Nigeria, you want to quickly sell your market, you want to say Ash and Gems beauty salon and all of that, or you want to say this and that, and I mean, you can already tell that consumers are people who are very creative, and one of the things that can get people's attention to your brand is your name. So if your name is not doing the justice, imagine how many fashion brands we have in Nigeria, imagine how many skincare brands we have in Nigeria, and you're just going to do yourself a great disservice by naming your brand just anyhow name, or by naming your brand your name. Even though it's your name, it does not necessarily have to be your brand name, especially if it does not connect to the essence of that brand. So I'm just going to say that, names that are coined from me and Dunsin coming. In fact, we need to coin a brand name right now. Me and Dunsin coming together, and then we say
Dunsin and
Omodola. So names like that, please. This is big 2026. I personally do not like it. I've had conversations with people where we just like, can you imagine that brand name? Something bakes. Yemisi bakes. Adeola wears. Olusegun house. Olusegun autos. all of you. I'm coming for all of you this 2026. And I really do feel like this episode is for all of you guys in that category in particular. While I understand that it's not easy to come up with brand names and all of that, Dunsi said something that was very, very key. You can take your time on all of these things. I mean, you don't have to rush, because at the end of the day, once you give your brand that particular name, it stays there for life. And we've seen situations where you try to change a brand name and I mean, everything just goes south because people are even already used to that very basic name that you've named your brand. So just like when a man and a woman will come together, they will think, they will brainstorm before they name their child anything. I think that's how founders, should also treat their brand name. It's something that is very important, and it should be something that you should put in so many effort into, and not just wake up one day and say, you know what, I want to start my Damlak business or my Olusegun Autos. Yeah, so that's it for me, really.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I think your name can limit you. And if you're trying to build a brand that you want to maybe have a global focus, I think you should also allow your name have that. Your name should be able to carry that. For some people, like for example, they might reduce the potential impact of their brand by adding maybe like Africa
or Nigeria or
or Lagos or Ikeja. Like your name, like it depends on you. If you want your business to just be Nigeria, please feel free. Like if that's a core part of your
Yeah.
identity. But if you want your name to have a global focus,
Yeah.
I think it makes sense to have that from start. Like your name should be able to scale
Yeah.
pretty much.
Dunsin, this thing that you said is also very important, and it takes me back to what we said about, even though we are talking about brand names right now, it also depends on what you do with that name, because there are other factors to it. Because this thing that you said about adding Lagos on Nigeria, for some people it's about trying to export Lagos to the global stage, or trying to export Nigeria to the global stage. So that's why you see some people, their name is Adiola Lagos or something Nigeria and all of that. So even though what you said is very important, it can be very limiting. I also really think that what you do with that name is also very, very important. So even if you are Adiola Lagos and the kind of communication you put out there explains to people that you're trying to export Lagos to the
exactly.
global scene, then it makes
reminds me of one of my favorite artist names. They're a band called Lagos in Paris. So that's the name of their brand. They make house music.
Oh, yeah.
So like when you head in Lagos in Paris, you kind of get it. It's like you're trying to connect this
city and
Lagos and Paris.
Yeah.
And like when you have that idea in your mind, like when you listen to their music, now it begins to make sense, and like it takes your mind on an interesting journey. So I think that would be an example of how to make it work, like putting the brand name and making it form an essence of your story. Yeah, I think.
Very quickly, moving away from brand names to, even we as humans, we are a brand, we are working brands and all of that. And I've met a lot of people, and when I hear their name, I'm just like, interesting. I love it so much. Mine is an example. I don't want to blow my trumpet, but I really do think that Omolola Moore is a very cool name. So I'm refocusing this conversation to talk about brands like humans. Yeah, when you see people like Debola Lagos is a name that I love so much, and it was even the one I was referencing when I was talking about you want to export, Lagos to the global stage. There's also this lady from the BBN house, Tolani Badge, and then she has a bag collection right now. I think it's Badge Locks and all of that. I just really like the name. It sounds so powerful and everything. So my conversation here is, even when it comes to like naming yourself or giving yourself a nickname, you agree that it's very important for the thought process to be solid, right?
Yeah, it should be able to take on a life of its own.
Yeah.
Like people should be able to take your name and then use it to do other things.
Yeah.
That connect to what your essence is.
Yeah.
Like what you mentioned, Tonali Badge.
Yeah.
Like I think that's really sick.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think definitely, even when you're trying to come up with a nickname or a brand name, you should think about all of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Dunsin. It's been a very wonderful conversation. Now we've come to the end of today's episode of DottrinePod. You guys can already tell I had the most amazing time with Dunsin. It was a very nice conversation, very insightful. And like I said, I'm very sure startups or, people who are still thinking about what they should name their brand right now, you all are going to find this episode very exciting, very insightful, and, very, very useful to whatever it is that you're doing. So thank you so much for watching DottrinePod. I'll see you on the next episode.